I'll go over there or something. I think I'm set.
Bigger and look cute.
I'm looking at cute.
So you didn't put the, oh, there's the beep beeps.
See peeps. Yeah.
But I think we have to explain that this might
no.
not be.
So if you,
Okay.
I might go sit there while I'm
Okay.
waiting.
I'm going to put these here for the moment. Is that okay?
Okay, I'm not gonna sit on it.
No.
Well, welcome tonight. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight for the Hearth. I think we've had some illnesses, and we appreciate everyone's understanding last minute changes, and it came together well, but it felt a little lumpy there earlier in the week, if we're going to be able to have it or not, but really appreciate everybody coming together. We started the Hearth here in Grants Pass, and based on the Hearth in Ashland, we started in 2010, and the team that puts this together is Hyla Lipson, Tom Berry over there too in the sound, and Sylvia Marr and myself. And really appreciate the help of everyone making it coming together. And tonight is a topic that's kind of close to my heart: cars in your life. And some people have asked why I'm not a storyteller for tonight, and I probably have too many cars in my life to even talk about. But when I think about cars in our lives, by a show of hands, how many can remember the first car they owned? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Cars are a big thing. It's a driver's license. Having that driver's license at 16 years old is a big event. And actually, one of the things, it's a sadness toward the end of our lives, we can lose that driver's license. That privilege is that giving up of things too. So there's that beginning and end. But cars really, they give us a lot of independence. But the thing I appreciate most about cars is they give us stories. And that's what the Hearth is all about, is telling stories. And tonight we're going to hear some stories about how some storytellers had the cars impacted by cars in their lives. So we have a nonprofit. Appreciate everybody's support for the nonprofit. And tonight is Greenleaf Industries. And Greenleaf, I've always been aware of them on Union Avenue for the great plants that they have, but I did a sneak preview back page article a few months ago on the Greenleaf, and I was just pleasantly surprised because in addition to growing plants, they grow a lot of lives. It's really amazing the work that they do. And so tonight we're going to have Nick Smith. Nick, do you want to come up here and just tell us a little bit about, there you are, I was going to say, I saw you back there earlier. A little bit about what Greenleaf is all about.
Hi, yes, as Steve said, my name is Nick Smith. I'm the director of Greenleaf Industries. I moved to Grants Pass 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago, and I've been with Greenleaf for over 25 of those years. So we've been around, we've grown all kinds of bedding plants throughout the area. If you got a chance to see out in the lobby, the retail shot there, and the wholesale site, we grow bedding plants out on Lower River Road on just over 7.5 acres. We grow a little bit of everything. I'll amend that. A little bit of everything that's legal in all 50 states. Our name is Greenleaf. We get a lot of questions. No, we don't grow that there. But we do grow a lot of the bedding plants that you're going to see at our retail store. And what we don't grow at our retail store, we try and source throughout our area. So the garlic that we're growing is grown right down the highway over in Klamath Falls. The house plants are in Woodburn, Oregon. So we're trying to give back to the community as much as we can, and we're trying to provide for the community as much as we can. So, as Steve said, our retail store on Union Avenue, everybody says over by the hospital, over by Walgreens, we were there first, so we should be that landmark right there. They're down past us. We were there. So for over 40 years, we've been in Grants Pass, 501c3 nonprofit. We hire adults with developmental disabilities. We have them run throughout the entire year. It's concurrent employment. A lot of people have been there for the whole span. I mean, as I said, I've been there for 25 years. There's people that have been there for over 30 years, growing those plants, working, integrating into the community, growing up around us. People have lived there, worked there, married there, and unfortunately have passed away over the years that we've been there. And it's amazing to watch. It's a wonderful place to work. We have a gentleman there who's been there from the beginning. He's in the 70s. He's been working on that crew. He struggles to write his name. He struggles to read. But what he can do is he can plant every plant in your garden. He's planted trees in this community that'll live longer than all of us in this room. It's an amazing place to be. Myself, Scott here in the back, and Paulette will be here all night if anybody has any questions about Greenleaf Industries. And thank you for inviting us and your support. We love this community, and we love to give back as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, for what you do and also for your presentation tonight. So we're going to start out a Hearth with music. And tonight, Cameron Camp is going to start us out. Cameron grew up in the Illinois Valley with his family going back to 1909. I think you don't look that.
I look awesome.
Okay. Living in a rural down lifestyle around the trees, fields, the slow-moving small-town Selma, and filled with stories of dubious origin but strong imagery. Some stories, he says, are even true. We don't know which ones. He also owns a guitar, or someone he knows loaned him one. Either way, he knows how to play one and wrote a few songs he will share with us this evening. Please help me welcome Cameron for Beep Beep.
So I am from Selma, and on the way into town, of course I was driving an F-250. I'm from Selma. I passed 4 Ferraris and about 10 Porsches. And the thing I didn't know all the details. I knew those guys weren't from Selma. So Hyla talked me into this. If you know Hyla, she's probably about to talk to you into something. And anytime you got a song that involves bicycle accoutrements in a very robust pink, she talked me into this. It's a 50s song called Beep Beep. Now, she might involve you because we have a pseudo-reliable beep. So she backs it up with a ring. Yeah, we don't know whether that's going to work either. So
But you can help.
you can help if you see it. If you see it coming apart at the seams. Ask Hyla, you stay around, or she'll sign you up for something. While riding in my Cadillac, when what to my surprise, a little Nash Rambler was following me, about 1/3 of my size. The guy must have wanted to pass me up. He kept on tooting his horn. Yeah, I'll show them that a Cadillac is not a car to scorn. Beep, 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 beep. His horn went beep, beep, beep. There you go. I pushed my foot down to the floor, give the guy a shake. But the little Nash Rambler stayed right behind, still had on his brake. He must have thought his car had more guts as he kept on tooting his horn. I'll show him that a Cadillac is not a car to scorn. Beep, 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 beep. The car went beep, beep, beep. My car went into passing gear and took off with a gust. Soon we were going 90, must have left him in the dust. When I beeped his horn and peeked in the mirror of the car, couldn't believe my eyes. Wow, little Nash Rambler was right behind. You'd think that guy could fly. Beep, 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 beep. My horn went beep, beep, beep. Now we're being 110, and it certainly was a race. For a rambler to pass a cattle would soon be a big disgrace. The guy must have wanted to pass me up, but he kept on beeping his horn. Show you that a Cadillac is not a car to storm. Beep, 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 beep. The car went beep, beep, beep. Now we're going 120 and fast as I could go. The rambler pulled upside my hair if I was going to show. The fella rolled down his window and yelled for me to hear. Oh, buddy, how to get this car out of second gear? Horn. Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cameron. That's a good way to get us started off. So, Larry Wiener has been fascinated with cars and trucks as far back as he can remember. Since his early teens, he has been working in cars and learning how to design and build them. Today, Larry lives his dream by professionally restoring classic muscle cars and creating modern collectible muscle cars. Please help me welcome Larry and his Nicky Hopper Stopper story.
That's better. Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay, we won't be talking about ramblers anymore today. But we have other stories to tell. So, mine is a personal story. Hyla kind of asked me to come up with something that was meaningful to me that might be meaningful to you, the audience. I guess time will tell. Any car people in here? We have one. One? Two? Somebody in the back? Yes? Okay. Hopefully you'll kind of understand the gist of the story I'm about to tell you. I know I'm on the clock. They give me 10 minutes, and I'm already wasting it, so I better get to it, right? First car I ever bought on my own, not counting a hand-me-down from my family, was in 1969. I was 19 years old, so now you know I'm really old. Always wanted a Camaro when they came out when I was in high school. I saw them fall of 66 when the 67s came out. Thought, that's what I really want. Saved up my money, and by 69, I was able to buy one, a used one. Fellow that owned it had bought it new in fall of 66 when they first came out. He got drafted. Those of you old enough to remember the Vietnam War, perhaps. And he got drafted. And I had to sell his car for whatever reason. And I bought it. And it was all original, unmolested, hadn't been modified or hot rodded. And as soon as I had a little extra money, I started fixing up the car because I was a gearhead. I was a hot rodder. And one thing led to another, whether it was wheels or tires or engine performance enhancements. I was always working on the car. If I wasn't working or going to school full-time at night, I was working on the car. That was my baby. And as time went along, I had a lot of fun. I got a lot of memories. It was my everyday car, so it wasn't like I had 3 or 4 cars. Growing up in Chicago where it snows and the weather's really bad, I even had studded snow tires for the winter, if you can imagine. So time comes, I was on a college deferment from the draft board. I don't know anybody old enough to remember the first draft lottery in 1968, which I was in. And I drew a very low number, number 93, meaning on the 93rd day, that's it, I was their meat. So as long as I kept up a proper course load and kept up my grades, I kept up my deferment. And the 3rd year of college, I went away to school, working toward my BA, and you could see the war was not going to end. And so when I finished my junior year, I looked at my options, and the options were finish my 4th year, and before I would graduate, I'd be getting a little thing in the mail called greetings. Anybody remember greetings? I do. And that meant you were cannon fodder, and they'll do with you whatever they want. They draft you, you have no say-so, no nothing. So long story short, because I am on that dreaded clock, I enlisted and got contract with the Army for the duty I wanted and the service I wanted and the what we call military occupational specialty, or MOS, for those that have served our country. and I did my time in the Army. Prior to leaving, I sold my beloved car, my Camaro. And I could still picture the young man who bought it backing out of my mom and dad's driveway. I'd sold it. He had the car, he had the title, and I wondered, why did I do what I did? But that ship had sailed, as they say. So the car was sold. And I moved on with life and ultimately went into business, married my lovely bride of 45 years now, who's sitting in the second row middle. And, but it always bothered me that I sold that car. And much later on, I decided I'm going to see if I can find a replacement for that car. But I should backtrack a hair, because the title of this little narrative is the Nicky Hopper Stoppers, and what on earth is that? Among the things I did to that first car before I sold it, back in summer of '69, I was racing. We used to street race back then. I know that's something we don't talk about now. We're supposed to be too mature and adult to do silly things and irresponsible things like that, but I was as guilty as anybody, and I did. I was racing a guy with a '69 Pontiac GTO and broke the rear suspension on my Camaro. And there was a Chevrolet dealer in Chicago, very well known to car enthusiasts, called Nicky Chevrolet, and they had a big line of high-performance stuff. And I went down there and bought these traction bars to replace the damage I had done to my rear suspension, and they were called Nicky Hopper Stoppers, because the Camaros had a bad habit of hopping around. Won't get into the technical reason why, just take my word for that. And I bought a set of those and put them on the car, and lo and behold, problem solved. Never did that again. Never broke it. And so years later, when I bought the Camaro that I have now to replace the one I sold in summer of 1971 before I left for active duty, was bone stock, all original, unmolested car, just like the original one I bought. For 10 years, I didn't touch that car other than to do upgrades and make it better, more original. Along the way in life, parts disappear, clips, brackets, things. And I put it as far back to original as I can or could. And 10 years like that. I was happy, but it was just another Camaro. And I was in Chicago for a big show called the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals, which is held in Rosemont at a beautiful property or facility called the Stevens Center. And I used to do that show every year. And there on the show floor was a Camaro nearly identical to my old one. It was red. It wasn't the same car, but everything he had done to it was everything I had done to mine in 1969 and 1970. And I thought, my gosh. And I had this epiphany. I got to do exactly to this one what I did to the other one. I won't molest it. I won't drill holes. I won't make it so you couldn't put it back, but I'm going to live my original dream when I was 19, and I'm going to do this. And I got on eBay. Of course, we didn't have eBay in those days, or social media, or networking, and it was easy to buy all the parts then. Now I want to buy the exact same parts I bought 50 years earlier. Okay. And one by one, I found them all. It was a grail quest, analogy Indiana Jones, and I'm on this quest to find the exact parts I bought in the late 60s, early 70s. Found them all but one, the Nicky Hopper Stoppers. Good luck finding a set of those, folks. They stopped making them in '74. They're gone. But I know the man that owns what's left of Nicky. He owns the trademark, intellectual property, he has some of the original stuff. And I called him. He's still back home in Illinois, and I said, Stefano, by any chance, do you have a set of Nicky Hopper Stoppers? He goes, have a set in the attic. I asked if I could borrow them. I told him, I said, I'd like to replicate a set for myself. So he sent them to me, and I have a very good friend that is an engineer and a fabricator. A guy can make anything, and he made me a set. We prototyped the set, made them, tried them on my car, made a couple adjustments to the jig. They fit perfectly. We made a production set. They're actually more beautiful today than the originals were, because production quality and standard city are much higher than 50 years ago. So we made the set. And I was asked to do a magazine story for a magazine called Muscle Car Review with the Camaro, telling all about how I built it and what I had done. It was part one of a two-part going into a three-part story. In that story is the Nicky Hopper Stoppers. And with that, my phone starts ringing. Well, how do I get a set of those? And the guys that had the same mindset and mentality as they wanted a set. So I got the license from Nicky, from Stefano, and we started making them and put them into production, and we still do. And it's not a big production deal. I mean, you got to really want something like that. You got to be kind of a dyed-in-the-wool aficionado, but okay. and we do make them, and I have a set on the car that I built. There's magazines in the foyer that I was asked to bring by our gracious hostess to show you the car when it was stocked, the way it looks today, what we call a day 2 car, meaning what did you do the second day you owned it? Oh, we did all this crazy stuff. There was an old AMC commercial years ago, a print ad that says, but Dad, I didn't ruin it, I just made it better. And I certainly did. I could be accused of that. My father thought I was a lunatic wasting my time and money, but okay. He was entitled to his opinion, I'm entitled to mine. We still have that car. I've got that car about 20 years now. It's sitting in my garage, and it is a virtually, other than the color, I'm on the 1-minute warning. Count it, 60 seconds. Talk fast, Larry. Other than the color, that one was tuxedo black, this one's marina blue. It is an identical twin to the one I built all those years ago, and it's in my garage. And for those that would like to see it in the flesh, it is not here in the parking lot, but it will be next weekend at Fabulous 50s at the Josephine County Fairgrounds on display in the previous winter's display, because it won there last year. So I invite you all to come to Fabulous 50s. I was one of those guys that turned a hobby into a career, and I lived the dream, and I'm very honest and very grateful to that. So I hope you enjoyed my little story about the Nicky Hopper Stoppers, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Larry. Our next story is Errol Chandler, and Errol is a 39-year-old middle school science teacher turned entertainer who hails from the scenic landscapes of Montana. After graduating high school in Cave Junction, he ventured to Washington, D.C., where he dedicated a year of service to the AmeriCorps NCCC. Errol's passion for restoring classic vehicles and his talent for improv comedy have propelled him to stages across the country, where he delights the audience with a unique blend of humor and intriguing facts. He is now embarking on an exciting new adventure, launching his own mobile comedy club and school of lightness and timing. Please help me welcome Errol.
All right, thanks for having me out. Give yourself a hand for being here. This looks nice. This looks nice. It's nice to be in front of an audience that's not drunk. I am a comedian, so I do a lot of stand-up, and it's really nice seeing all your eyes, and everyone's looking at everyone. So again, my name is Errol Chandler. I do come from Montana. Anyone Montana? All right, all right. A lot of street cred from Montana. If you're from Montana, a lot of people appreciate you for no reason. It's a good thing. I've been in Oregon. I actually grew up in Cave Junction, so another Cave Junction night up here playing the guitar. I love to see that. Yeah, it scares everyone else, but we're in a club. And I was asked to talk about cars as well, and I'm excited to because I've had about 80 of them, and all of them are under about $1,000. So unlike the Camaro, I fancied getting cars that were broken or free or cheap and seeing if I could get them running. And at that point, they were worth a little bit more. And so then I'd sell them and do that again. And as a kid, I got into that. But before I get into that, I wanted to talk about confidence through cars. And I'm sure there's many people that can attest to this. But for me, as I look back now, again, 39, I'm not dead yet, but 39, and you know, I got 20 years of life or so in a car, feeling about cars, 25. And I find myself reflecting on how much confidence I have just as a person able to do stuff because I've fixed my car a whole bunch. And, you know, I see older folks always complaining about young people not knowing anything about anything and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I get your fear. But at the same time, it was a little bit different back in the day when things were kind of in front of you and you could just kind of fix them, as we know. And now, watching people pop the old hood on the Prius, it's a little different story. So let me just get into some stories. I don't really know exactly, but I've had a very emotional connection with cars for some reason. When I was a kid, my dad was a truck driver. And so I was in Montana. My dad was a long-haul truck driver, and he would come home, and his good idea, and a good idea it was to have me change his oil and grease his truck up when he would come home. And so I started to learn a little bit of things about that, about 10 or 11, 12, something like that. And when I was 15, or turning 15, my dad decided that he would get me a car because he knew I was kind of getting car crazy. But I was only 15, and so he bought me a broken one. He brought me a broken 1969 Volkswagen Beetle. And he gave me this book called How to Keep Your Volkswagen Alive by John Muir, who, if you know John Muir, it's not the guy that started the Sierra Club, also a very cool John Muir. But this was John Muir, and he was incredible. If you ever get a chance to see this book, it's just a complete work of art. He did all of his own drawings. He wrote the whole thing, and he wrote it from this standpoint of a guy sitting down looking at his Volkswagen Bug. And you open the first page, and he goes, well, sit down behind your car and open the hood and look, and that's what that is right there. Now light a cigarette and chill out a little bit, and da-da-da-da-da. It was a whole different vibe, and I loved it. And it helped me when I got my $300 Volkswagen to fix it within a couple weeks, actually. So there I was, still 15 in 2 weeks, and can't drive a car, obviously, until you're 16. So I said, well, heck, this guy seems pretty confident. I'll just take the thing apart. Do it all. Do the whole thing. Got to run it. Might as well take the body off the frame. The electrical out of it. And so that turned into a year-long project of putting that Bug back together. But I got it back together and was driving around. And ever since then, about every year I'd go through 3 or 4 or 5 cars, you know, finding someone's broken car. It's not hard to find broken cars. I don't know if you know that out there. But pretty easy to run into them. And I got some confidence there. Now, later in life, we'll just jump to right now. Way later. Few cars in between. I am now at a road where I have a 1964 Volkswagen Bug that is 100% rusty. It has been rolled one time. It has 500 spray painted on the hood because that's how much I paid for it. It has no rear end. It has no motor in it. The windows are out of it, and I bought this, and I love it very much, and I'm going to get it running, and we will be driving around this thing that looks like it should not run. And as part of this, I've also picked up a 1978 Freightliner semi-truck, just like my dad's when he was driving around in Montana, and I'm going to put a stage on the back of that and go around and do workshops offering for people to bring their own car out wherever they are. And we're going to talk shop and talk about cars and see if we can't get some people kind of excited about fixing their own car and finding something that's a piece of trash and turn it into something nice. So that's kind of the move that I have come up with. And just from a time standpoint, I don't want to get too into it. So I'll tell you the one story that got me crying with cars. When I was 14, we had this car, and it was an Isuzu Trooper 2. Anyone know this guy? We bought a new. Parents bought a new, 85, who knows why, but it was a great car. And this thing just would go anywhere, good on gas. We loved it. And it was sitting out in front of my car, or in front of our house one day in Salt Lake City. We were living in Salt Lake City at that time. And I woke up, and I looked outside, and someone had hit the car. Hit the Isuzu Trooper, not with their fist, with another car. Yeah. So another car had ran into the Isuzu Trooper, and I was overwhelmed with emotion and started crying right there. Now, I have only cried about 4 times from that point till where I am today, okay? And, you know, it says a lot of me. I'm getting therapy. We're all good. But at the same time, there's something to be looked at there. And so there was a very strong emotional connection with this car. And since that, I went through a lot of time where I was almost shameful of being too into cars. Like, oh, this is kind of a weird thing. It's a piece of metal, Errol, and it's just shiny, and, you know, there's nothing really to it. But at the same time, I've come full circle on this, and I really find it quite beautiful for people to find love in inanimate objects, in places and things that aren't other humans, that aren't anything else besides something to appreciate and to find yourself in. And I know I found myself in a ton of different cars, and I continue to find that both in people and in the world around me, and that's about it. Thanks so much for having me chat. Love cars, love y'all. Cheers.
Thank you, Errol. So now, before our intermission, we're going to have Sarah Dion Brooks, and she finds inspiration and peace through the creation of song. She writes her music that will help uplift and empower her into healing and becoming a better human. First song is Let Them. Please help welcome Sarah.
When Hyla asked me to sing and gave me the theme, I thought, I don't really write any songs about cars, but I had told her about this song that I just wrote. And when I was listening to everybody talk, I was thinking about something someone once told me about our thoughts and how we can control our thoughts. And one way is to think of thoughts as cars. And when the intrusive thoughts come, just let them pass by. And I've thought a lot about that. And this song I wrote is one of those songs to help me let things go by. I was struggling with some stuff that was going on. You know, you can't control what people talk about or say or do. And I work with my own clients, and one of them was telling me about this new tattoo she got, and it said, "Let them," on her hand. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to know what that means to you. And so she shared it with me, and I had another client an hour later, and she goes, I need to tell you about this new tattoo I'm gonna get, and it's gonna say, "Let them." And I thought, okay, I need to write a song. So this song is called Let Them, and it's to help remind me that I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do. So this is the song called Let Them. Some people will love you, some people won't. Some people support you while some people don't. Some will be there, but some will desert you. Some people will show that they care while some will try to hurt you. You can't control what other people think or do or say, and in the end, it's not about you anyway. So the best thing to do is not let them get to you. Some people will talk, let them. Some people will mock, let them. Some people will walk away, let them go and let them be. Some people accept you, but some will reject you. Some will protect you, so what are you gonna do? Gotta protect your peace too. You can't control what other people think or do or say, and in the end, it's not about you anyway. So the best thing to do is not let them get to you. Some people will talk, let them. Some people will mock, let them. Some people will walk away, let them go and let them be. Be true to yourself, stop trying to please others, don't hold your fate or the keys to your happiness, for it's there inside you. Let your heart be the one to guide you. Don't make yourself any smaller just so somebody else will feel taller. Just be true to you and let them do what they do. Let them think, let them say, and then simply walk away. Let them act and ignore as you walk out the door. This is where you are free, when you just let them be. And some people will talk, let them. Some people will mock, let them. Some people will walk away, let them go and let them be. Some people will judge, let them. Some will even hold a grudge, let them. Some won't give a budge, let them go and let them be. Let them think, let them say, and then simply walk away. This is where you are free, when you just let them be.
Thank you, Sarah. So we'll now have a 15-minute intermission. By the way, yesterday I had these printed off. These are, this is Hope, which is the therapy dog that I have, and these are coloring book pages. I brought some printed off and put some back there if you'd like one, with her favorite toy of a tennis ball and popcorn for a treat. So, so let's take a 15-minute intermission, and we'll come back for the next section. Thanks. ready to go? Well, welcome back, and hopefully we had the chance to tell some story about cars over intermission. And I'm amazed that everybody comes back because people want to talk about cars, it seems like, all the time. So, welcome us back with music is Cameron, and the song is What?
This is
What?
what?
Yeah, what?
It's a song about communication in automotive. I wrote this song. You can blame it on me. She said, "Listen up here, sweet. I'm pouring my heart out, sweet. So won't you listen to me now, sweet? Tell me that you care." I said, "What's that, honey?" "What did you say now, honey? Why you walking away now, honey? Come listen to me." She said, "I got something to say to you. I don't want to play with you. Tell me you love me too. Won't you listen to me?" I said, "What's that, honey?" "What did you say now, honey? You look kind of mad now, honey. Come listen to me." She said, "Now your truck's on fire." Automotive. "I popped all your tires, and you look too darn tired to even really care." I said, "What's that, honey?" "What did you say now, honey? I smell smoke now, honey. I guess we're through." Communication. There you go.
Thank you, Cameron. So our next storyteller is Tina Gottschall, and Tina has got a story about the Ford Falcon, and been a resident of the community since 1987, when her family purchased a small business. The business was named the Powderhorn Cafe. They raised 3 beautiful daughters and blessed with 4 grandchildren. Her years in business taught her about service and how important community is. She sold the business and has now been busier than ever. She finished a term as the Grants Pass Rotary president and serves on the Public Library Board and enjoys both immensely. Tina continues to find ways to serve the valley that she loves. Please help me welcome back Tina as she talks about the Ford Falcon.
We were talking about how it would be so much nicer to have something right here in front of you to just kind of steady you a little bit. So I decided to do this today because of the advertisement I found. I was scrolling through Facebook, saw that it was about cars, and immediately went to my car story. And my car story is about a Ford Falcon that was very instrumental in my entire life. And it is part of the biggest and best life lesson that I go back to often and am reminded of it, and was reminded of it today when I really needed it. The Ford Falcon belonged to one of my friends who lived down the street. I grew up off of the San Am Pass up in the mountains, and my friend had a car. She was a lot older than I was, and we went to school in Bend, which was 50 miles one way. And my friend was in the band and was going to be playing that evening. It was a Friday night, and I had a friend stay over because they thought it was really cool that they got to go out of town to spend the night with someone. And my friend said, "Hey, do you want to go to the football game?" My sister and I were going to drive into Bend. And I thought that would be amazing. You know, I'm 14, to get to go with my older friends. Checked in with my parents. They said, yeah, that would be okay. So we waited, and it gets dark. It was football season, so it gets kind of dark up there. So I remember it being dark, and they had pulled into our driveway, and we got into the back seat of her little blue car. And I was just feeling so excited to be doing this, and it just felt so grown up. And we had just shut the door, and I remember my dad coming to the door, opening it and saying, "Get out." And I said, "What?" I thought he was kidding, so I was kind of, and he said, "No, I want you to get out and bring your friend." And I was, "Am I in trouble? And he goes, "No, I need you to get out." And so I got out. I was humiliated, embarrassed in front of my friends, embarrassed in front of my girlfriend who was sitting there. I was so angry with my dad, and I remember stomping into the house. And my dad came back in, and he said, "I'll take you in my truck. I'll take you into Bend." And I'm like, that made no sense at all. They're right here, and you're going to have us go in your truck and drive 50 miles. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit in the parking lot while we go to the game? I'm sure I didn't say it that way because we didn't do that. And so he said no. He goes, "I'll just sit in the parking lot and you guys go to your game, and then when we, I'll wait there till you're ready to come home." And I said, "Fine, whatever." Of course, I just talked to my friend. I was still very angry, very upset that my dad would embarrass me in such a way. So it was maybe, 5 minutes, and we had decided, so we were hopped into his big old truck, and we headed into Bend, and we had almost got to Sisters, and we saw a huge semi had flipped over on the road, and it was one of those semis that have those big black bags that carry glue. Have you seen those? And it had tipped over. There was glue. We had to go off of the road a little ways, and they had only had one maybe first responder there. It was, still very new, and there was just glue everywhere. And it was just incredible to see all of that chaos. So we kept going and got into Bend, and Dad sat in the parking lot, and we went in and watched the game. Immediately we're bored. We're 14. We don't care about the game. And so we go, "Let's go check out the band. We'll go say hi to our friends." And so we went to the band and couldn't find my friend Ann, couldn't find her sister. And we're like, well, that's weird. So we're extremely bored at this time, and it's probably halftime maybe. And so we decided, well, we're just going to go home. And so we found my dad in the parking lot, and we got into the truck. And he said, "Well, did you see your friends?" "No, we didn't see them, but it's a big school." And so we drove home and just went back to my house and enjoyed our evening. And I eventually, kind of got over myself. The next day, I went to call my friend Ann to ask her, "Where were you?" And her mother answered. And she said, "You didn't hear?" And I said, "Well, no. Is she there?" She said, "No, she's in the hospital. Both of them are. They were in a very bad accident last night. A semi-truck carrying glue had flipped over and had completely covered their car with glue. They had to cut her sister out of the car because her hand was pinned between the ceiling and the steering wheel. My friend Ann was very small, and she managed to get into the floorboard, or it threw her to the floorboard, and broke almost every bone in her body. And her sister was in a neck brace and a broken arm and a broken leg. And I was just completely devastated. And she said, "And Tina, the back end of the car is gone. The whole back end of the car was completely demolished." And I went in and I told my dad. I said, "You're not going to believe what happened last night." And I told him, and I said, "How did you know?" My dad and I had a very complicated relationship. We did not see things eye to eye, even to the day he died. And I didn't agree with sometimes how the way he lived. But I knew that his faith in God was real. And he said, "Something spoke to me and said to get you out of that car." And The life lesson you would think would be to obey your parents. But it wasn't that. The big life lesson was God doesn't need perfection for you to hear him. All he needs is obedience. And my dad, I was within 10 minutes of death, and he was obedient. And he pulled me out of a little blue Ford Falcon.
Thank you, Tina. Our next storyteller, our last storyteller of the evening, is Dennis Weber. And Dennis was the pastor at Parkway Christian Center for 28 years. Dennis has been involved in our community by serving 2 terms on the Grants Pass City Council and 9 years on the Josephine County Mental Health Board, 9 years on the Asante Foundation Board, and 10 years on the Kairos Board of Directors. As a side note, on a personal note, Dennis also officiated for the wedding of Christy and I. So please help us welcome Dennis Weber.
Let's sit down so I tell stories and don't preach. I got my first car because somebody stole my bike. I had worked since I was in the 4th grade, and I had spent most of the money I made over the years in riotous living, which amounted to going to the soda fountain at the Rexall drugstore and drinking milkshakes and chatting up the pretty high school girls they always hired to work at the fountain. I had managed to save a couple of dollars, and so by the time I got to high school, I had enough money to buy what was at the time a fairly high-end Bridgestone multi-speed road bike. I actually only had it for a few months. I would ride it all over town, and I rode it to school and put it in the back and chained it up and went to class and came out, and someone had cut the chain and stolen my bike. They left all the cheap bikes there, but they took mine. So I took the insurance money from my parents' homeowners insurance that gave us some money for the bike that had been stolen, and I bought a car. His name was Fred. P-H-R-E-D, Fred, named after the Vietnamese character in the Doonesbury comic strip, for those of you that remember that. Fred was a 61 4-door Chevy Impala, probably one of the ugliest Chevys ever made. My friend happened to buy his cousin, who was a burgundy version of the same car. 4 of us had decided that we were going to take a trip, and we were going to go to a church-related event in Bend. Now, that meant that we had to drive from the Portland area up over the mountains in the middle of the winter to get to Bend. We decided that we would take Fred's cousin. The reason was because Fred's cousin had new, recapped snow tires all the way around. Now, mind you, nothing on the dashboard of that car worked. None of the lights, none of the gauges, the speedometer, nothing worked. And if you pulled up the bath mats that were thrown down in the floorboard in the back, you could look through the hole and see the ground underneath the car. But it had 4 recapped snow tires. So that was the car that we took, and we made the trip to Bend to an event that, Tina, you might have actually been at. I mean, Jesus is everywhere, but the girls were going to be in Bend, so we had to make the trip. In contrast to his cousin, Fred was a remarkable piece of machinery. The couple that had bought the car originally was an older retired couple, and they bought the car and immediately put those clear plastic seat covers all over everything. I don't think anybody had ever actually sat on the upholstery in the back seat. I think they'd only ever touched plastic. So I buy this car, tear off all of that, and I essentially have this car with brand new interior. That was a great piece of machinery, small V8, 2-speed, what they called a power glide transmission. We affectionately referred to it as the slip and slide transmission. But Fred's greatest asset was the fact that you could put 12 teenagers in him easily. I mean, a current Morris Mini, I think, would have fit inside this car. The thing was absolutely huge. But the downfall was that slip and slide transmission, because it began to slip and it began to slide. I had absolutely no mechanical ability at all, so I got it fixed and sold it to a friend of mine. He bought it so that his girlfriend could drive it. I found out at our last high school reunion that they had gotten married and that Fred had lived out his life as a beloved family member. The kids had rolled around in the back seat, and he lived out his life with this family. That's when I made my first big car mistake. I'd sold Fred, I had a little bit of cash, I was looking to buy my next car, and I came across a '69 GTO convertible. Red, white top, red bucket seats, had a console with a Hearth 3-speed shift over on the floor. It was a great car. I didn't buy that car. I should have. It would have made Fred proud. The girls would have loved it. And if I still owned that car, I would have had a car that was worth the price of a small condominium. But I got a '69 Chevy Chevelle instead. Not much of a car. The car that got away. That '69 GTO. It was 25 years after that that I was finally able to kind of make up for that mistake. 35 years earlier, when I was just a kid, my family had owned a '66 candy apple red Mustang. I almost died in a car wreck in that car, and that was the end of that car for us. But I discovered a '66 Mustang that was for sale, an all-original car, V8, 3-speed automatic, pony interior, everything but the right color. So I bought this car, got the transmission fixed, which seemed to be the bane of my relationship with cars, was their transmissions. Got the transmissions fixed, and I decided I'm going to restore this car and make it look like the one we had when I was a kid that got crunched in the wreck. The only problem was I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have any tools to do it with. I didn't have any place to do it, but luckily for me, a '66 Mustang can be taken apart with 2 wrenches and a couple of screwdrivers. They're pretty simple machines. And so tear apart is exactly what I started to do. And I'm pulling everything that's loose and in and out. By then I have a friend who's got his own mechanic shop, and I basically went to shop class. And he helped me. We pulled that 289 out of there, tore the thing down to the block, rebuilt that thing, and put this shiny new 289 back into the car. I started taking all the interior out. I'm reupholstering the seats. I'm reupholstering the sides. I'm putting new carpet in. The greatest thing I managed to pull off was on the first try, done correctly, I got a new headliner in that thing, which is not an easy task to pull off. I also had a friend that had been into classic cars for a while, and he said, I know a guy who's got a shop, and we can paint this car. I said, great. So now the glass is all coming out. I mean, everything else was already out. We're taking the glass out of the thing now. We're taking all the stuff off the outside. The bumpers are coming off, the headlights, the tail lights, everything's coming out of this car. We're getting it ready so that we can paint it. The only problem is I live in West Salem. That's where the car is. The paint booth is someplace close to Silverton on the east side of Salem. So I have to get the car from West Salem to East Salem. Now, the brilliant plan for transporting this car was that I would get a milk crate and sit on that. I would wear my racquetball goggles to keep the bugs out of my eyes, and I would drive the car from West Salem across the river over to the east side of town, and hopefully I wouldn't have to do any jail time because the cop that stopped me was going to be a car enthusiast, and he was just going to give me a ticket. That was the plan. So we managed to get the car over to the east side of town, and we completely repaint this car. No one would ever know that it had ever been another color. We completely repainted this car. Then we drove it back on the milk crate with the goggles. Same story. We didn't get caught. There was no traffic tickets. There were no jail time. We brought the car home, and it is now a bright red, candy apple red 66 Mustang. And I start putting the thing back together, and nobody was ever going to know that it used to be ember glow. The only way I can describe ember glow as a color is to imagine a highly abused penny, and that's about the color of ember glow. It's now bright red. Put the thing back together. I drove that car for about 12 or 15 years, and then it got to the point where, as old cars do, and you drive them all the time, this needs fixed, and I got to put this other thing there. And, well, let's just be honest, my wife wanted new furniture, and so we sold the 66 Mustang to a friend of a friend who lived in Scotland, and my Mustang is now living out his life in retirement in Europe. And my wife got new furniture, and I got a great leather recliner from Gates Furniture. I still own that, though my wife sits in it more than I do. I don't know what your car story is going to be. I don't know what cars you've had or almost had. But my hope for you is that your car story is about the car that you had and not the car that got away.
Thank you, Dennis. Sarah is also going to now finish the evening with the song You Get to Choose. Help me welcome back Sarah.
I wanted to tell a little story about this song before I sing it for you. So, I love to say that I write music because it's cheaper than therapy. It's almost like a prayer. I bring it to the piano, and I cry sometimes, and I just pour it out, and I get answers coming back from it. And I don't know if you guys remember 2020. It was kind of a rough year in so many ways. And in November of 2020, I was sitting at the piano, just really struggling with the world, with the country, with quarantine, with everything that was going on. And I was just struggling. And I remember thinking, Wayne Dyer is an author that I really admire, and I love his work. And one of his quotes really popped into my head at that moment. And it said, hostile people live in a hostile world. Loving people live in a loving world. Same world. And so I wrote this song as a reminder to me that I get to choose how I show up in this world, and I get to choose the world I see. And so I wrote this song. And the second part of the story is this. The way music works for singer-songwriters now, most people don't buy CDs anymore. We do streaming on iTunes. So the way we get paid as musicians is if you listen to my song on iTunes, I get paid 0.00005 cents or something like that. It's very, very small. And I got a letter one time. It was an email from BMI, who is a company that I had to register to protect my royalties. I don't have millions of followers, so I don't expect huge royalty checks. It would be amazing, but it's not happened yet. And I got an email, and they said that they were sending me $13.76. And I was like, oh my gosh, $13. And so for fun, I decided to look on the sheet of paper about where this money was coming from. And so in 4 months, in the year of whatever year it was, I made 2 pennies in the United States for royalties. I made 22 cents in Belgium, and I made $13.70. Don't do the math, I probably did that wrong. But it was in Japan, and they had used this song on television. And I was so excited. I don't know where to find it, I don't know how, but they used my song on television, and then I was like, $13.50? I'm not doing it right. But I get to choose how I show up, so I hope you enjoy this song. It's my most famous world song so far. Some hold on to bitterness and hate. Others learn to let go. Some choose to live in their pain. Others use their pain to grow. Some act out in anger. Others live to be kind. How will we understand each other if we choose to stay blind? 'Cause we live in the same world, just looked at from a different point of view. There is something good or something bad, depending on what lens you're looking through. How does it make you feel when you focus on the things that you do? If you only see the bad, step outside yourself and see it from a different point of view. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of world that you see. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of person you'll be. You get to choose. You get to choose. You make a difference every day. What kind of difference do you make? It matters what you do and you say. Do you give or do you just take? It's not about what happens. What matters is how you respond. Is it out of fear or is it out of love that you see inside yourself and beyond? 'Cause we live in the same world, just looked at from a different point of view. There is something good or something bad, depending on what lens you're looking through. How does it make you feel when you focus on the things that you do? If you only see the bad, step outside yourself and see it from a different point of view. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of world that you see. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of person you'll be. You get to choose. You get to choose. If you want the world to change, change the way you see it. If you want to see the good, then go out there and be it. Be the good and share the love. Be the change, rise above. There's hope for peace and love. But it's up to you. You get to choose the kind of world that you see. It's up to you. You get to choose the kind of person you'll be. You get to choose. You get to choose.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and to those who join us online, thank you as well for that. Our next Hearth is going to be on October 10th, and What Are You Afraid Of is a theme, and the featured nonprofit is the Grants Pass YMCA. And Sylvia, you're going to be, this is your last one for helping us, and appreciate all the things you've done for the Hearth, because you're going to law school next month in August. Congratulations to you, and I know you're going to make an awesome difference in the world. Thank you. And thanks to everyone. These stories tonight are just so powerful, I think, you know, and when I leave the Hearth, I'm changed. We get, this is the last song, you get to choose. And so choose wisely. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and we'll see you in October, hopefully. Stay cool. Yes.